In this video, we're going to look at the various types of diffusion available from LEE filters and how to use them. I like working with hard lights because of the control they give, but what I don't like are the hard edges to the shadows. What's often needed is the control and beam shape of a hard light, but without these pin-sharp edges to the shadows. To solve this problem, I use 253 Hampshire Frost. What it does is just soften the edge of the shadow without losing the shape of the light beam. It also helps to get rid of fringing on some lights. That's where the edge of the beam has a very slight coloured outline. A sheet of Hampshire helps to lose it. It comes in various strengths, but even the full strength 253 doesn't alter the overall softness much. If you need a softer edge but still want a shaped beam, then Hollywood Frost 255 is ideal. In the same way, if you have to overlap beams, or more commonly use a number of lights to illuminate an area, what's needed is a soft beam edge without losing the sparkle of a hard source and keeping the beam shape. Again, that's where Hampshire Frost just softens the edge enough to make it easier. A tip here, if you're going to use frosts and colours on a light, then have the colour on the outside. Coloured filters get hotter than diffusion, and heat affects the life of a filter. By putting the colour on the outside, air can move around it and lower the temperature. We've seen that Hampshires are almost transparent. In fact, the lighter ones are virtually clear. They leave the beam shape intact, but just take away that edge and sharpness in the shadow areas. Now we come to the traditional diffusions, which also come in various grades. This is 216, probably the most common of the diffs. Personally, I prefer the half diff, or 250, because it doesn't absorb as much light as the 216. However, over the years, LEE 216 has almost become a generic name for full diffusion, and on any set, the lighting technician will know what's meant by 216. Diffusing the light sometimes tends to be confused with diffusing the image. When you put a filter on a camera or use post-production software on a scene or shot, you diffuse the whole image. With a soft light, you fill shadows and give a softer impression without losing sharpness. Let me give an example. If we want to smooth out any imperfections in the skin of an actor, we can do this by adding diffusion to our light, in this case 250 half diffusion. We put some light into the shadows without reducing definition. Her eyes and eyelashes are just as sharp and bright, which is not always the case with a soft focus camera filter such as a mist or a net. Let's have a look at this diffusion in more detail on our mini actors. As you can see though, this type of diffusion affects the light beam and it's going all over the place. On the plus side, you now have a spread of light which is softer, but you can't really control the shape of the beam with the flood and spot adjustment on the light. In fact, the flood spot adjustment hardly does anything to the beam. Don't forget that on a Fresnel, the wide setting is much more efficient than on the spot. On open face units, it's the other way around. So you get a softer light, but you lose quite a bit of directional control. One slight problem with traditional filters is that they can be a bit noisy, especially if you're moving them around or working in windy conditions. There are a number of different styles of filters to help sort out this problem. My favourite is one of the flexi-frosts, 414 Highlight. It's become one of my most used filters because of its lack of noise. It's nice to use inside as well. You don't disturb rehearsals or pre-interview chats while you're lighting the shot. There's a whole range of these flexi-frosts and I love them. A common mistake made when using diffusion is to forget that for a light to be soft, it has to come from all different directions. Once you've put a strong diffusion on a light, it doesn't matter how much more you add, the light doesn't get any softer. One way to soften light even more is by using a frame. There are all sorts of commercial frames available, but the simplest and cheapest are canvas stretcher bars. It's what artists put their canvas onto, and basically you just staple or pin a sheet of diffuser onto it. As you can see, it gives a lovely wraparound quality to the light, and it smooths out any skin blemishes. Well, that's a quick introduction to diffusion, and I've only just touched on the subject. Now it's up to you to go and experiment further.